Good morning, GERO 508. This is June 2nd, and we are going into nutrition and aging. And we have a great presentation put forth by Angeli and Elizabeth. They are our co-leaders in terms of the discussion. And thank you, Charlene and Sarah, for normal physiological aging discussion. Great job, and again, great PowerPoint. Marnie, you're our fact checker, and you've done a great job of producing lots of really useful information. And again, thank you, Phil, for your discussion on infectious disease. In fact, just the sideline, do remember that our immune system is one of our really vulnerable systems, physiological systems. Every one of us undergo physiological decline in terms of the immune system, making us much more vulnerable to bacterial and viral infections, and that's why you need to get the flu shot as you get older. In addition, you can piggyback on top of that age-related disease, like my wife Julia Walsh. She is your instructor for legal and regulatory issues in aging, amazing corporate attorney for 20 years of her life, and she got chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And in that situation, what happens is your normal stem cells in your bone marrow, like that, what happens is the cancer stem cells begin to crowd out the normal stem cells, and so you produce less viable immune system cells, and you crowd out the stem cells for the red blood cells, so you have less oxygen carrying capacity that leads to fatigue, and you crowd out your normal stem cells for platelets, and so you tend to bruise and have internal bleeding. So it's a really difficult disease, and again, it's all centered around the stem cells. So thank you, everybody, in terms of your discussion there. All right, so an important starting point by Angeli and Elizabeth was the sociological factors. We are social beings. We love to eat together, and when your social circle begins to contract, as does often happen in terms of aging, then you're less likely to seek out good nutrition. And it can lead to malnutrition, meaning you're not absorbing some key elements that can lead to physiological decline. Another important feature that they brought up is the pharmacology. So this is not necessarily successful aging, but if you're taking a number of drugs to treat diseases that you happen to have, an undesirable side effect is that it can alter the absorptive properties of your small intestines, so you're not able to absorb key vitamins. And some of these elements that they discussed, vitamin B12, is huge in terms of vascular and cognitive abilities. Vitamin D, the same thing, and key for cancer fighting. Vitamin B2 is the one that has a problem in terms of alcoholics, and this is how we treat alcoholics and help limit their Korsakoff syndrome dementia. I really loved the Furman food pyramid. It's so important that we alter our diets and replace our especially beef-derived sources of protein with plant-derived sources of protein. The key element is methionine. What happens with methionine, this is amino acid, is that the higher level of methionine you have, this triggers cell growth and also cell division, which is a risk for cancer. And methionine gets converted into homocysteine, and the homocysteine is a super high risk factor for cardiovascular disease because it can damage the lining of your vascular system. Lastly, they talk about dietary restriction, and a key element in that is glucose. We need to if we're going to be taking in glucose, which we need for our fuel to get things done, we need to make it more time release, and the way we do that is by using fiber, and fiber gives a slower absorption, and also make sure that we don't absorb all the glucose we have in our diet. And this reduces the risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and Alzheimer's. Yes, Alzheimer's, they call it type 3 diabetes, so altering your glucose intake is really crucial. And they did have a discussion of dietary restriction. Also, cancer loves to feed on glucose. Okay, if you've ever known anybody that has cancer, if you've had cancer, the first thing they do is they'll do a PET scan with radioactive glucose, because cancer cells have a 6-fold higher increase in their absorption of calcium of glucose because of their unique physiology. So you can choke off the cancer a bit by lowering your glucose. Okay, I look forward to the discussion, and take care.